Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness unto light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. Good evening, everybody. I'm pronounced to Revered Mataji, and thanks for inviting me here again to Dallas. It's always a pleasure to be back here. Today and tomorrow and day after, we have a retreat on insight meditation. You know, with me it's always going to be about non-dualism, Advaita Vedanta. The path of knowledge, that's the way it's usually called, Jnana Yoga, the path of knowledge. Is it too loud? Is that right? Yeah. I thought Jnana Yoga, or the path of knowledge, has, yeah, to reduce it a little bit, there's a little echo. The path of knowledge has a slightly misleading slant to it, because it sounds like you have to read a lot of books and know a lot of things. Whereas the point of it all is to have an insight into one thing only, into what we really are. That's the whole point of it. So insight is what we are looking for, a spiritual insight into what we are and into the heart of reality. And Advaita Vedanta says it's the same insight. When you realize what you are, you also get an insight into the nature of reality itself. So that's what we are going to do. This evening will be an introduction, but basically I would consider this to be the most important session. The actual learning sessions are tomorrow and day after, but the real issue is what I'm going to put forward before you today. That's why I haven't got the text. The text which I will use tomorrow and day after is Aparoksha Anubhuti, a few copies of which are available here. And in fact, you can see a detailed teaching of all the verses, verse by verse. It's available on YouTube. But I'm going to take the essence of that tomorrow and day after. But today, I will not refer to the text directly. I will refer to the heart of non-dual teaching, the insight itself, what I wish to convey. In fact, if you get the insight today, you need not come tomorrow and day after. Yeah, do come. The whole of religion, the approach to religion depends on how you set up the problem. The answer will be accordingly. How you ask the question, the answer will be according to that. The most common way is the way of faith, the way religion is taught. There is an ultimate reality, and the problem is that we do not believe in it, we do not trust it, we do not surrender to it, we do not love it, adore it, worship it, and all our problems are because of that. And the solution is, automatically the solution is to believe in that. Call it God or Allah or Shiva or Durga, whatever you call it. That ultimate reality, to have faith in it, to believe it, to love, adore, worship the way it is taught. And the way is, the method is one of faith. And that's what most religion is. When you come across the general religious teachings across the world, in different religions, it's in the language of bhakti, in the language of devotion and faith. That's how it goes. Another approach is the approach of the yogi. The yogi comes and says, no, not faith, experience. There is a reality which can be experienced. And the problem is that you do not experience it, you do not see it, you do not feel it. And the solution is to experience it, see it, and feel it. In fact, one of the reasons why Swami Vivekananda was so successful 125 years ago when he came here, he spoke the language of experience. He stressed that religion is experience. He said religion is realization. Religion is realization. Religion is not giving assent to a certain set of doctrines or beliefs. You know, his famous definition of religion is the manifestation of the divinity already within us. Do it by meditation or by service or by philosophy or by love, one or more or all of these, and be free. That is the whole of religion. Books, temples, doctrines and churches are secondary details. So it's a language of experience. How did he become Vivekananda? When the young student Narendranath goes to Sri Ramakrishna, he asks a question. Have you seen God? Not do you believe in God? Have you seen God? He's asking in the language of experience. And it is by no accident that the first book that he wrote here, in fact he wrote it in New York, is Raja Yoga, the method of meditation and direct mystical experience of the spiritual reality. Vivekananda said, if there is God, I must see Him. If I have an immortal soul, I must feel it. So, the language of experience. The problem is, there is such a thing, and we don't experience it, and the solution is to experience it. God, your soul, whatever you call it, you must experience it. So, the solution will be a set of spiritual exercises. You find them in, say, Patanjali Yoga, for example. Do it. When you do it, you will get these extraordinary experiences which will prove to you the truth of religion. Mystics of all religions have had these experiences. And what Vedanta says, what Yoga says is, it's not just the mystics. They're not just outliers. It is for everybody. So we can have these extraordinary experiences which will prove that religion is true. But the operative word here is extraordinary experience, not ordinary experience. Ordinary experience everybody has. You're sitting here, listening, talking, writing, driving, eating. These are ordinary experiences of living life. Not these experiences. There are some experiences which are extraordinary experiences which will prove to you samadhi, some mystic vision. Those things will prove to you. But there's a problem with that also. Today, why I'm saying this is, what we are going to talk about today, tomorrow and day after, I'm trying to distinguish it from the other approaches. Not to put down any approach. They will all take you to the same reality. But in order to appreciate this approach, it's a very subtle and fine approach. In order to appreciate it, you must know how to distinguish it from others. Later on you can combine them, take the help of all approaches, but distinguish it. The problem with the faith-based approach, we are not talking about that, but the problem with it, if you want to say that the problem is a problem, is faith doesn't come easily, especially in today's age. Even if you have a little bit of faith, listen to Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris and all that, and religion is generally not for the cool crowd, you know. If you are sophisticated, educated, you like to think of yourself as advanced and progressive, then religion seems to be the other end of the spectrum. For the first time in human history, in today's world, we have large numbers of people across the world who do not believe in God, who do not believe in religion. Richard Dawkins was asked once, you have heard of Richard Dawkins? Selfish gene, and he's a militant atheist. He goes on TV and is the terror of countless fathers and mullahs and rabbis. So he was once asked that you keep talking so much about atheism. How many people are atheists in the world? Very few. At least declared atheists. Most people believe in some form of religion. His answer was devastating. His answer was, by the way, don't take any of this seriously. Many of you come in here, good, God-fearing people, believing religion, and then then it will be a disaster if we leave the Vedanta society having lost all faith in God. No. In fact, I'm giving you a solution to what Richard Dawkins said, but let's hear what he said. How many people are atheists? You keep talking about atheism. Most people believe in religion, some kind of religion. He said it's true. The number of atheists in the world may be less than 1%. But if you look at the number of PhDs, and if you take a survey among them, I'm paraphrasing what he said, you will find the number of atheists is much more. Maybe we'll get 30-40% are atheists. And then he quoted a survey among the living Nobel Prize winners in the world today. Some 80 to 90% of them were atheists. And he left the conclusion unsaid. Which means, the dumber you are, the more likely you are to believe in religion. The smarter you are, the less likely you are to believe in God. So that is the problem of faith. Just believe in God, difficult today, if you are an inquiring person. In fact, if you are truly spiritual, it's the first difficulty that you encounter. I have seen many people who come to Vedanta, they have gone through a period of skepticism. People to whom an easy, conventional religion comes easily, they don't generally come to Vedanta. Unless you are a seeker, unless you are a questioner. If you are a seeker, a questioner, an inquirer, then you will go through a period of skepticism about conventional religion. It's almost inevitable. So along comes the promise of experience. That's why Vivekananda is so popular. You can experience God, you can see God. Sri Ramakrishna said to Naren that, yes, I have seen God. And you too can. So that's the pull of Vivekananda. But here's what we generally do not say, but I will say it. There's a problem there also. What is the problem? Mystical experience is rare and is also open to question. How many people have samadhi? How many people have visions of Mother Kali, have a nirvikalpa samadhi like Narendranath? Very few. And if you want it, to work at it for 20 to 30 to 40 years, seriously at it, he got it in 1 or 2 years. But for most people it takes a long time. Totapuri took 30 years, he said. So it takes a long time of sincere, dedicated pursuit, and when we hear that, we sort of scratch our head. Okay, it's alright. We have to embarrassed to say the obvious truth that not for me, not in this life. It might be difficult, and it's rare. And not only that, it's so open to question. A neuroscientist will say something is wrong with your brain. You are having a little clot here, that's why you're getting these mystical experiences. So on. So that's the negative side of it. The problem with the first approach, the bhakti approach, faith approach, the problem with the mystical experiences approach, extraordinary experiences approach, the yogic approach. Problem. Now there is a third approach, which we are going to speak about today, tomorrow, and the day after. The approach of insight, jnana. Not faith, not even mystical experience, but ordinary experience which is indubitable. Everybody has that. The experience of waking, dreaming, sleeping, who does not have it? The experience of seer and seeing, subject and object, who does not have it? Right now you are having it. The experience of being embodied, in a body-mind complex, who does not have it? We all have it. All ordinary, just ordinary experience available to everybody all the time. Take that, begin with that, and this path, this third approach, will take you step by step to the ultimate realization. It's subtle, but it's also direct. And I think it is suitable to larger and larger numbers of people as it goes on, as time goes on. Swami Vivekananda said, Advaita is the only religion for rational man in the modern age, for what he saw what was going to come in the next 100, 200 years. I take this approach and I go out and meet some of the top scientists in New York, philosophers. They will be interested in this one. I've seen mind-brain consciousness unit in NYU. the top people there, their conferences, and I go there. They are interested in this approach. They recently had a colloquium which I attended, a hard problem of consciousness and Advaita Vedanta perspective. But if you're going to talk about devotion to God or some kind of weird experience, they're not interested. They will not talk to you at all. So this is an approach. This is the approach of knowledge, of insight. Knowledge of what? Ordinary experience, something that's available to us all the time. The story of Mullah Nasruddin. The story goes that he used to trade. He used to go from one city to another and trade. And the border guards would see that he would come with his donkeys laden with goods, and they would check. And the border guards, they felt sure that this guy is a smuggler. But they would check thoroughly. They couldn't find anything wrong. Everything was above board, everything was legitimate. So they would have to let him through. Years passed in this way. Many, many years later, when that border guard had retired, one day he met Mullah Nasruddin for a cup of tea, in a little shop somewhere. And he said, Mullah, tell me the truth. I know you are smuggling. But what were you smuggling? I tried and I could never find out what you were smuggling. And Mullah Nasruddin said, oh, you didn't know? I'm smuggling donkeys. Something that's obviously there all the time. You never noticed it. Your attention was on the goods, which were piled on the donkeys, but you're smuggling donkeys actually. So, smuggling donkeys, hidden in our extraordinary experience is that ultimate reality which spirituality, religion, all the religions of the world, ultimately they are speaking about that thing. But it is continuously present to us. Swami Vivekananda called it the open secret. When he was smuggling donkeys, it was an open secret because it was right there in front. The open secret. The reality which the path of insight speaks about. That reality, it is not separated from you by space or time or object. God is not something in different place. I remember sometimes when you drive, you see these big billboards. Heaven is a place. It could be. All religion says that heaven is a place. But what it means is that it's not this place. It's another place. It's separated from you by space. Now that's convenient actually. If I teach something like that and you ask me, why can't I see God if God exists? I say, God is in heaven, that's why you can't see God. Not here. You have to go there. Then you can see God. Or you're separated by time, after death. Or even after samadhi. After something. After is a time word. Why can't I see God? Because God, you can't see now. You have to see after death. And after that you can't catch me, obviously. I'll be gone. But what Vedanta is speaking about, Advaita Vedanta, it's not separated from you by space. It's not there. It's here and it's everywhere. It's not separated from you by time. It's not then. It's then also. But it's all the time and it's now. And it's not separated by you from by object. That means it's another thing. Other. No. It's you, the real you. Continuously present within us. Right here, right now, is that ultimate reality. Brahman, Atman, God, whatever you call it. This is the position of Advaita Vedanta. Do you not want, this actually is, I'm remembering a teacher in India. He said this in Hindi. I'll translate for you. Let me tell you the Hindi first, then I'll translate for you. He said, क्या तुम नहीं चाहते हो अपना प्यारा हर वक्त तुम्हारे साथ रहे, हर जगह तुम्हारे साथ रहे और तुम में ही रहे? Do you not want that your beloved God, do you not want that your beloved be always with you, everywhere with you, and be one with you? all the time, everywhere. Of course we would want that. That's what Advaita Vedanta says. You have it all the time, everywhere, and it is none other than you. So in this path, the third path, the path of insight, the spiritual journey, and it is a journey, the spiritual journey is not a journey in space, from here to there. Where can we go to find God? In Jerusalem or Mecca or Benares or heaven? No, not a journey in space. It's not a journey in time, from now till then, till the end of the universe, or till death, after death, till the coming of the Messiah, till journey in time. No, not journey in time. And it's not any other object either. So, the spiritual journey here, then what is the spiritual journey? What are we going to do here? It's a journey from ignorance to knowledge. That border guard, how did he get enlightened? About the donkey, not about God. It was a journey from ignorance to knowledge. He didn't have to go anywhere, he didn't have to wait, it was there all the time in front of him. All he needed was knowledge. So in this path of insight, the journey is from ignorance to knowledge, from not seeing to seeing, from not having insight to having insight. Alright. You might say, so what is this thing? Are you saying that ultimate reality, God, Atman, Brahman is right here? Yes. Right now? Yes. Within me? Yes. Always available? Yes. Effortlessly available? Yes. Instantaneously available? Yes. What is that thing? I'm of course speaking about consciousness. Yes, of course. I'm speaking about consciousness. The interesting thing is, it's there with us all the time, but we do not know its value. You see, it's continuously available to us in every experience. When you see something, when you're seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, all of those are conscious experiences. They are in consciousness. Whenever you're doing something, walking, talking, grasping, eating, all the motor organs, when you're using them, they're conscious experiences. They're in consciousness. You are aware. Awareness is there. When you're awake, you're aware. When you're asleep and dreaming, dreams are also in consciousness. Deep sleep, according to Advaita Vedanta, is also an experience in awareness. It's an experience of absence, not an absence of experience. Deep sleep. So consciousness is there in every aspect of our lives. In fact, our lives are consciousness, basically. Everything is done in and through consciousness. It is the one thing that does not change. As day passes, see, when you are experiencing many things, you are experiencing the freeway, and then the Vedanta Society, now you are listening to a talk, after this you'll have delicious food, and the freeway again. All of those things, the objects of consciousness change. Freeway is different from Vedanta Society, different from talk, different from food. They are different things. But in and through all of them, one consciousness. In that consciousness you are experiencing these things. When you are seeing correctly, consciousness. If somebody is daydreaming, in consciousness. If somebody is hallucinating, in consciousness. And as the day passes away and you fall asleep and dreams come, you're sleeping. You've forgotten that you're sleeping on the bed and it's dreams going on in the mind, but in consciousness. That's the consciousness. I'm using the word consciousness loosely. I mean consciousness, awareness, sentience, any one of those will do. Because none of them is the exact fit for the Sanskrit word Chaitanya or Chit. Consider it like a light. See, when I show you this paper, you can see the paper. When I show you my hand, you can see the hand. When you see the altar, you can see the altar. Paper is different from my hand, and hand is different from the altar. But one thing is common in all of these. The light which is reflecting from this paper and my hand and the altar which is going to you into your life. That is the one common thing. This is the one thing which you overlook continuously. If I show you this, you will say, I'm seeing paper. Show you this, your hand. Show you that, you say altar. But no, you are saying light plus paper. Light reflected from paper. True or not? In fact, physically speaking, the paper is not going into your eyes, thank God. The only thing, neither paper nor hand nor altar goes into your eyes. Your eyes are made for receiving only light. Literally speaking, anything that you see is light and light only. It's an example. I'm giving you an example. In the same way, in every experience, the objects of experience are changing, one after another. But consciousness is one and the same. And this consciousness is fundamental to us. It is the basis of our lives. Right now, it's also become very important in science and philosophy. There's something called the hard problem of consciousness. I mentioned it enough so people know about it. There was a philosopher, David Chalmers. He coined the term. Basically what he said is something that we all know, but we never paid attention to. He said, look, consciousness is continuously there. All our experiences are in consciousness. As I said, walking, talking, thinking, whether you're sensing something, feeling something, understanding something, remembering something, desiring something, all of these are conscious experiences. And he said, yet, from the point of view of science, there's a big problem here. What is the problem? How is it possible that this physical body, with the brain and the nervous system, which are physical entities, just like this, just like these machines, they are also biological machines. How can they have this dual aspect? One is an external aspect. External, I mean, brain and neurons and neuronal functioning, the firings of the neurons, the neurochemicals, electrical activity there, which can be monitored by fMRI machines. That's the external aspect of it. But internally, we all have this technicolor movie, multimedia experience, virtual reality experience of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. Automatically people today, scientists, they have to assume somehow those neuronal firings, their electrical activity in the brain is generating your experience of hearing, speaking, talking, and all of this. All our conscious experiences are generated by these activities in the brain. How? There is nothing in this universe so far known which has this dual characteristic. An external physical characteristic and an internal characteristic of how it feels to be like that. Do you see what David Chalmers was driving at? It's like, suppose you feel hungry, and a doctor comes and takes the pancreatic juices and the activity in your intestines and stomach and says, this person is hungry, according to all the data. Now that's one way of looking at it, but internally you have a feeling of hunger. That's the internal aspect, the conscious way of looking at it. How is it that one thing has two aspects? Nothing else has that second aspect. Tables, chairs, stars, neutrons, nothing. They have only one aspect, a physical aspect. And how does the brain generate this internal thing? Nothing else does that in the world. Not only that, today scientists, they have to claim brain generates it because after all that the worldview is a reductionist worldview. Everything must be matter and energy, nothing else. Time, space, matter, energy, body. That's it. So somehow mind, consciousness must be born out of body. That's the mainstream gospel. He challenged that. Consciousness cannot be a product of the brain, he said. Clearly they are linked. So consciousness is somehow using the brain, but consciousness is not produced by the brain. No more than your TV produces the TV programs. What you see on the TV is not produced by the TV. Something it's catching and then manifesting it to you with its equipment. But it's already there. The content, the program, your sitcoms and all of that, they are not produced by the TV. No more than the radio catches the radio waves, it's not producing those programs, those songs and podcasts and all. No, it just catches. So the brain is somehow a mechanism used by consciousness. Now this is his position, David Chalmers. Obviously, many people don't accept it. But if you Google it, you'll find it's a huge thing now. If you Google the hard problem of consciousness, he called it the hard problem of consciousness. To distinguish it from the so-called easy problems of consciousness, which is that if I drink a cup of coffee, I have a certain experience, and something will happen in my brain. So the scientist will scan my brain and find out these neurons are firing, and he reports the taste of coffee. So this is coffee tasting neuron, something like that. Not so easy. But it's called basically a science of correlations. But how those neurons are generating, if at all, this experience, that nobody knows. So David Chalmers says consciousness is not produced by the brain and nervous system. It's an independent, what is consciousness? It is an independently existing entity, using the body and mind to generate our experiences of life. And so he is propounding something called panpsychism, which says consciousness is an ubiquitous, all-pervading entity, interacting with matter, time, space, matter, energy. So universe is a material universe, and there's consciousness. I don't know if he knows, but 5,000 years ago, the sage Kapila said exactly the same thing. Sankhya philosophy, Prakriti Purusha, pure awareness, and the entire material universe, and they interact. Where do they interact? You, right now. This is where a material universe. What is the material part of it? Body and mind. Even mind is material according to Vedanta, according to Sankhya. And consciousness, they interact. So this is the hard problem of consciousness. And I was delighted to find in New York that David Chalmers is there in New York. So once in a while we interact, and he calls me whenever we have something similar, Vedanta or Buddhism and hard problem of consciousness, it goes on. So it's going on. And recently in NYU there was this colloquium, a hard problem of consciousness and Advaita Vedanta perspective. And I went to attend that. A professor was giving a talk. And I found in the audience, small audience, about 25 people, I found if you Google the top 10 philosophers now, you have to put now, otherwise we get Plato and Aristotle. Top 10 philosophers now, out of that list, 3 were there. At least 3 I recognized who were there in that audience. So such a tough audience. And what are they discussing? Advaita Vedanta as a possible solution to the hard problem of consciousness. Okay, that's one side. So we, according to Advaita Vedanta, we are pure awareness, experiencing this world. But then what is this world? If we are awareness, then what is all this world? Just last month I came across something else. It's called not hard problem of consciousness, the hard problem of matter. It's not so well known. If you Google it, you'll find it. And it's someone who's your neighbor, relatively speaking. Galen Strawson, he's a philosopher in University of Texas, Austin. He wrote a paper, The Hard Problem of Matter. You know what he says? It's incredible. He says there is no hard problem of consciousness. Why? He takes absolutely, I would say, a very Vedantic perspective. He says, we know what consciousness is. After all, we are conscious. All the time. The only thing that we know is that we are conscious. To know something, to feel something, to think something, you must be conscious. So consciousness is something which is continuously self-evident to us. He says the real question is, what is matter? Why do you have a hard problem of consciousness? He says, because you already have a preconceived notion that matter is real and it is somehow generating mind and consciousness. How is it generating mind and consciousness? You have reversed the problem. Consciousness is real, that is continuously self-evident to us, eminently evident to us. What is matter? Then he goes on remarkably to show, as science has progressed, matter has continuously receded before us. Atoms and molecules are relatively simple entities. But now you have a veritable, what I think Niels Bohr called a zoo of particles. You have quarks and various types of quarks, up, down, strange, charm, bosons, things like that, and so many things. And then you go further down, they're talking about superstrings. Incredible. So he says matter is disappearing. The more you investigate, what do you learn? What is science? So is not science teaching us something? Of course it is. But what is science showing us? The more you investigate, he says physics, particle physics is showing us how matter behaves and interacts. But what is it really? If you try to see what's the substance, the reality behind it, it's disappearing. Further and further back, receding, receding, receding. Jim Holt in his book, Why Does the World Exist? It's a very nice book. Towards the end he says, in Greek philosophy, reality was supposed to be made of two things. Hylomorph, they called it. Substance and structure. Substance and structure. There are things and they have got particular structure. And he said, what science has done especially over the last 100 years or so, we are getting more and more of structure only. Where is the substance? All that particle physics reveals to us is the structure of the universe. How things interact. But what are they? No, we don't know. How remarkable it is that the very idea of Maya is nama rupa, structure, form, name and form. Everything here is name and form. When I read about this, hard problem of consciousness, hard problem of matter, I thought if you put these two together, you've got Advaita Vedanta. Hard problem of consciousness shows you that you are pure consciousness. You have to be nothing else other than that. And the hard problem of matter shows you that all this universe is nothing other than pure awareness of consciousness. So, anyway, it's an interesting thing to do. Nowadays, thanks to Google, you can investigate and you can read about it. Consciousness is fundamental to everything in our life. One distinction I want to make here before I go ahead is this. When we are talking about consciousness, awareness, whatever you call it, make the distinction what is made in Advaita Vedanta, Swarupa Jnana, Vritti Jnana. How do you translate that? Swarupa Jnana is consciousness in itself, the real nature of consciousness. You are consciousness, that is Swarupa Jnana. Vritti Jnana is the activity of the mind. So normally what we think about as consciousness, as awareness, right now you're thinking, I am aware. Yes, you are. Hopefully. If it gets too warm, then people will start losing awareness. It's getting too warm? No, it's not. You can see people fanning themselves. Yeah. You can turn it down a little bit. Vritti Jnana and Swarupa Jnana. What you are aware of, that's an object of awareness. And when that comes into the mind, the mind has what is called a modification of Vritti. So here is a piece of paper. When you look at this, this knowledge is reflected in your mind. Your mind takes the form of this. Whatever your eyes, your sense organs are presenting. That taking of a form in the mind is called Chitta Vritti, movement of the mind. Nothing very esoteric in it. Thoughts, feelings, memories, ideas, desires, all of them are Chitta Vritti. And that Chitta Vritti is illuminated by consciousness. So make a distinction between Chitta Vritti and consciousness. Our ordinary knowledge is consciousness plus Chitta Vritti. It's very simple. The paper, same light. And what you are seeing is paper plus light. Not just paper, not just light. That's why you say, I am seeing a paper. Hand plus light. Altar plus light. The light in itself is like consciousness in itself. The light reflected from the object is what is called Vritti Jnana. So when we are talking in Vedanta, we mean Swarupa Jnana, consciousness in itself. Awareness in itself, not the specific knowledges, specific experiences which we have throughout the day. All these specific experiences are powered by, lit up by that consciousness. Okay. Time and space, which is this consciousness consciousness, I said it is a continuous consciousness. Unchanging, continuous consciousness. So we find in Vedanta eternal, nitya. But even that eternity of consciousness is by accepting time. So something that does not change in time is called eternal. But even that is not an accurate way of describing it. Rather, time is in consciousness. Consciousness is not something that lasts a long period of time. Rather, time is also experienced in consciousness. Space. We talk about this consciousness pervading space. In fact, David Chalmers says panpsychism. Everywhere there is consciousness. But even everywhere, even that is not an accurate description. That is accepting space when we say it pervades space. But even space is experienced in consciousness. In your dreams, for example, when you fall asleep, you forget you are in your bed, in your bedroom, and you see, maybe you're walking in a park and there are people, wide open spaces. Where is that wide open space? In your mind. It's not actually out there. It's not that you are moving through the dream space. Actually, the space in the dream is in you. Is that not true? Even the time that elapses in the dream is in your mind. So that's an example. Exactly like that, this time and space also, which we are experiencing, is in consciousness. Because I don't know enough physics, but it's very interesting. I was reading a book by Carlo Rovelli. He's an Italian physicist. His books he writes so well, so poetically, that his books are now being translated from Italian into English. Carlo Rovelli, he has written a number of books on time and on reality, basically presenting physics. Not about spirituality, about physics itself. But in his famous book about time, he starts with Nataraja, the dancing Shiva, and the conceptions of time. And one thing he mentions is that time moves faster when there is activity. So, for example, when heat is dissipated, there is a connection between the arrow of time and entropy, law of thermodynamics. I don't understand so well, but it's a simple thing taught in physics. But what he does is he gives some he puts it in such a startling way. He says, it's only when you are thinking that time tends to pass for you, and heat is also being generated in your head when you're thinking. When you think, less heat and less passage of time. And interestingly, the yogis say when you stop thinking, for you, subjectively, time does not pass. And we can understand it. In deep sleep, we don't have any experience of time, passage of time, in subjectively for you. Anyway, so time and space are also experienced in this awareness. It's not that this awareness is in time or is in space. Space and time are experienced in it. I like this once in Rishikesh or Hardwar, I think. Vedanta class was going on, and a monk, the teacher was also a monk, a simple question he asked. You are this all-pervading consciousness. And he said, stop. How can I be all-pervading consciousness? I am here, not even there. So how can I be all-pervading? In this room itself, I am here and not even there. You should ask direct questions when you hear such cool stuff like you're all-pervading, you're everywhere. Sounds nice, but be hard-headed and logical. So the simple question was, I am here, not even there. How can I be everywhere? And you know what the answer was? But here and there, are they not both in your awareness? In Hindi he said, मैं तो यहाँ हूँ, वहाँ पर भी नहीं हूँ, तो सर्वव्यापी कैसे हूँ? I am here, not even there. How can I be all-pervading? But the answer was, यहाँ और वहाँ दोनों तुम में है कि नहीं? Here and there, both are in your awareness. And to understand this, just look at your example of your dream. In your dream, you're standing here, maybe looking at a lake. Across the lake, somebody is standing there. Here and there, in your dream, the whole thing is in your mind only. There is no real here and there apart from what you saw there. So time and space are also in this awareness which we'll be talking about. Okay. Now, I haven't started. I just set the foundation for what's going to happen tomorrow and day after. Now, how are we going to do this? The traditional approach in the way of knowledge, way of insight is hearing, reflecting, meditating. Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. So tomorrow's sessions will be structured in hearing and reflecting. So I will be giving the teaching and you listen and then you ask questions. You react to it. And the last session on Sunday will be entirely devoted to insight meditation, the stabilizing part of it. Now, what are the purposes of these three? Hearing, reflecting, meditating. Hearing is first of all to transmit the teaching itself. Hearing is to get the information, teaching. So, when do you know that hearing is complete, the first stage is complete? Hearing is complete when you can say, I know what the teacher said. I know what the text said. I know. I can tell you. I have got the information. At the end of hearing, you should be able to say, noted. Got it. What's the problem now? I know what you said. I know what the book says, but I'm not convinced. I have got many questions. I'm confused. Go into the second stage, the stage of reflection. Ask the question, argue it out in your mind. When is this second stage completed? When you have got clarity, when you have got conviction. First stage, I know what you said. Second stage, I get it now. Do you see the difference between these two stages? You must come to the second stage, I get it now. First stage, absolutely essential. At the very least, you must go away from the retreat knowing this was said in the retreat. What was said? Oh, some high philosophy, I don't know. Then even first stage is not complete. First stage must be complete. Hearing. One Tibetan Lama said how they were taught. They undergo rigorous training in their texts. So in the first class, one of their teachers, a Tibetan Lama, a senior Lama, told them how not to listen. How not to listen. So you should not listen like a upside down pot, dirty pot, leaky pot. Do not listen like an upside down pot. Upside down pot, whatever you pour, it will just go up the side. Nothing will accumulate inside. So if I just sit here and it all pours out on Saturday, and I go out of the sessions and somebody asks, so what did you learn? I have to wait for the YouTube thing. I really don't have No. I should be, that's why, that, in earlier days, even now in the traditional schools, they insist on memorization. I'm not going to insist on memorization, but they insist on memorization. That at the very least, you must know the teaching, you must know the text, what is being taught. I remember discussing a point of logic, not even Vedanta, Indian logic, ancient Indian logic, Nyaya, with a monk in the evening in the Himalayas taking a walk. It was 10,000 feet high near Gangotri. And believe it or not, I was amazed. I had read the book earlier. It's a standard introduction to Indian logic called Tarkasanga. But this monk had the whole thing memorized. And I said, you got it memorized, you're just quoting verbatim from the book. Because he was not even, his specialization was not Indian logic. It was Vedanta. But so whatever text he has read, he's memorized the whole thing. So I said, you got the text memorized? He said, this is how you study. In Hindi, it sounds more forced. Padhai to aise hi hota hai, Swamiji. This is how you study. Luckily, we have flash drives now and the cloud. So we need not memorize. Google will do it for us. No, it's good. But at least we should know the outline. You should be able to say in your own words, this was taught, first. Second, this, the dirty part. The dirty part, first was the upside down part, nothing accumulates, should not be upside down part. Dirty part is whatever you pour into it gets polluted. You put water in it, it gets dirty. You can't drink it. You put milk in it, it will get spoiled. You can't drink it. So, dirty part is skeptical. Skeptical in a bad sense. I know this guy, whatever he's teaching is wrong. I'm just going to prove that it's all wrong. I'm convinced. Now you never learn anything that way. Forget Vedanta. You enroll for a course in the University of Texas there and learn physics. You can't go into the classroom thinking that the teacher is a liar, the textbooks are all wrong, all the papers published by physicists they are all false. No. How do we go into these courses? In secular learning, I believe what the teacher says, I believe what the textbooks say, I don't get it yet, let me work at it, I will get it. I know they are right, but I don't understand it yet. That is alright. And to understand, you can ask any question, you must ask questions. In a physics classroom, if the teacher says such and such thing, you get it, and if you say, sir, you are great, I believe whatever you say, the teacher will be exasperated. He says, no, you're not supposed to believe what I say. Do you get it? So that is the second phase. You must question. But listening should not be like dirty part. It should not be with the ulterior motives. The motive should be, I want to learn. And the third thing about listening is leaky pot. You understand. It goes in there, but tomorrow half of it is there, day after tomorrow nothing is left. So the ability to retain some of the teaching. That is hearing. And then questioning. Questioning is very important, and you must question in order to learn. Not just to believe. Because in the path of insight, one must understand. There is no other way. Path of faith, believe it. Path of experience, practice it. Bhakti starts with belief. Yoga starts with practice. Insight, path of jnana, starts with understanding. Yes, intellectual understanding. One must get clarity. I heard what you said, now I am beginning to get it. That's what we are looking for. But now what's the problem? The second stage, the problem is, I get what you are saying, but it's not a living reality for me. Anyway, it's like a cool philosophy which I've learned. Very clever philosophy which I've learned. It's not enough. It must become a living truth for me. I must be able to say, yes, it is true. I am that undying immortal consciousness, always was, is, will be. With full confidence, you may not say it to anybody else, but to yourself, honestly, you should be able to say. So that one is nididhyasana, the third one, meditation, the insight meditation, which we will do on Sunday. What happens is that one makes a breakthrough. And some of you will, I know, you make a breakthrough. But immediately the question comes, it's not stable. The moment I hit the freeway, it's all gone. It gets swept away. If the traffic is bad, if somebody cuts me off on the road, then all the pure consciousness is gone. So how do I stabilize myself? How do I stabilize myself in that? That is the third stage. To make it a living reality and to make this clarity stable, which I can use in day-to-day life. Should I go on?
Yes.
No, we have got time up to 8:15, but I want, at this stage, I've said so many things without actually starting. The actual teaching will start tomorrow. Hearing, reflecting, meditating. If you have got, alright, hold on to your questions. Think about questions to ask. There's one more thing I want to say, which will tie all this together with our, so far, the general idea of religion that we have got. Sadhana, religious practice. What is the role of meditation, prayer, seva, karma yoga, all of these things, temples and singing and all of that? How is it related to what I'm just saying? So, it's like this. Remember, this is an approach from the path of Advaita Vedanta, the path of insight. So there's a particular approach to the whole problem. It looks, the answer to the question is this. The question is, what about spiritual practice? All these things that we do. So how is it related to what you are saying here? It's related in this way. The problem is ignorance. We don't know. The solution is insight. We have to know. And the method to get the solution, we just said, listening, reflecting, meditating. Now the problem will be, Swami, we know all that. We have been doing it for 30 years and nothing has happened. It's not working. Why is it not working? Well, the mind, the instrument which will generate this insight, that is not yet ready. It's scattered. focus is not there, lack of focus. Especially in this day, infernal machines in everybody's pocket, mine too. Always grabbing your attention, distracting you. Focus is not there. So this problem is called in Sanskrit vikshepa, scatteredness. Vikshepa, scatteredness of the mind. So scattered mind is the problem, then the solution is concentration. Method is meditation. So this is where meditation comes in, to calm and focus the mind. It's in the calm, stable, focused mind that these teachings, hearing, reflecting and meditating, it will give rise to that insight. So what do? Meditate. You scratch your head. Meditate, Swami, you will fall asleep. Feel sleepy and my mind runs here and there. Now what is the problem? Third tier of the problem is that the mind is full of impurity. In Sanskrit, Mullah, Chitta Mullah. So what is the method? What is the solution? Purify the mind. Chitta Shuddhi. And for that, one powerful practice is unselfish action. Doing good to others, not being so concerned with this little self. Now, spiritual practice, I want you to imagine a matrix. A matrix, 3x3 matrix. The three columns are, the left hand column will be problem, second middle column is solution, and the right hand column is method. Problem, solution, method. First problem, ignorance. Solution, insight. Method, hearing, reflecting, meditating. Second tier problem, scattered mind. Solution, focused mind. Method, meditation, concentration, meditation. Third tier problem, impurity of mind. Solution, purity of mind. Method, unselfish work. In Sanskrit, let me give you the terms. So first one, ignorance, ajnana. Insight, jnana. Hearing, reflecting, meditating, shravana, manana, nididhyasana. Second tier, vikshepa, chitta vikshepa, scattered mind. Focused mind, chitta ekagrata. Method, meditation, yoga, Raja Yoga. Third tier, impurity of mind, chitta mala. Purity of mind, chitta shuddhi. Method is karma yoga. Nishkama karma yoga, nishkama karma or karma yoga. So now we have the whole structure of spiritual practice. I think that's what I wanted to share this evening with you as a preparation for tomorrow's talk. So tomorrow we have two sessions. The first session is called the awakening to pure awareness. That I am that pure awareness. A clarity about this. The teaching will be given and you will have to question and discuss it till you get that aha moment. This is what you mean. Okay, I get it. The second session will be that everything in the universe is that pure awareness, not just me. That's the second session. To put it in one way, the first session is an answer to the hard problem of consciousness, and the second session is an answer to the hard problem of matter, from an Advaita perspective. Okay. That's what we're going to do tomorrow. I can't believe there are no questions. You should have seen, I'll come to you. You should have seen that seminar, that colloquium in NYU, New York University. A lot of questions.
Just bring your questions up here.
And if you say that, was the Advaita Vedanta perspective accepted as a solution to hard problem of consciousness? Not at all. But you wouldn't expect it to be. The lady who presented that paper, she said, oh, what a tough crowd. Really tough crowd, yes. Of course, the tougher the questions, the better they are. But in Advaita Vedanta, we have an advantage. I remember asking my teacher, when I was a novice, asking my teacher that, I'm sorry, I have some questions about what you just said. I was thinking, is he going to be annoyed if I I seem like I'm doubting it. He said, ask away. Better minds than yours have been pondering about these questions over the last 1400 years after Shankaracharya. So all these questions and many, many more which you can never think of have been asked and answered more or less satisfactorily. So yes, you must ask questions. You must think about it and see what is difficult for me, where am I getting stuck? Question.
So you talked about heart problem of matter, talked about heart problem of consciousness.
Yes.
And all other things that you talked about gives me an impression that matter and consciousness are different. But isn't matter actually a manifestation of consciousness?
In Advaita Vedanta it is, yes.
Can you repeat the question?
The question is that you talked about the heart problem of consciousness, heart problem of matter, giving the impression that matter and consciousness are different, but isn't matter a manifestation of consciousness? Of course, you're running far ahead. That's what Advaita Vedanta wants to teach. But if you say that matter is a manifestation of consciousness, it's completely counterintuitive to modern science. What does modern science tell you? Rather, consciousness is a manifestation of matter. There was this material universe. What's the story that we learned? There is this material universe, has been so for billions of years, in a completely insignificant corner of this material universe, one tiny planet. Somehow, matter became living matter. And over millions and millions of years, this living matter evolved into more complex forms, nervous systems, brains, and that nervous system brain somehow generated this present consciousness. This is the story we have learned in science. So consciousness is produced by matter. See, the relation between consciousness and matter is very interesting. 4 options are possible. In Indian philosophy. You can look at it this way. I'm compressing a lot to see these approaches. One approach is consciousness has come out of matter. This was the view of the ancient Indian materialists, the Charvakas. And it is the view of modern science also. That mind and consciousness somehow are produced by physical bodies. It's produced. And they have no existence apart from it. In fact, there's a scientist, his name is Steve Mitchell. He's written a book recently, Innate, how everything that we are is hardwired into our brains. He's a geneticist from Trinity College, Dublin, Ireland. And why I'm saying this is, there's going to be debate, conversation between him and me in Manhattan later this month. So it's a public, he says, body is all, nothing else. Just your body, brain, that's it. There's no mind, consciousness, nothing separate. No atma, soul, all religion, all this nonsense. So that's one point of view. We're going to have this in Manhattan, end of November. So that's one point of view. Consciousness is born out of matter. And it's in a very old point of view. The Charvakas said, this only some Indians will understand this example, and it's a gross example. Pan, when you chew it, your tongue and lips become red. But the constituents of that pan are not, there's nothing in the red there. With a mixture of those colors, a red color is generated. And then, just like that, the ancient Indian materialists said, by a mixture of earth and fire and water and air and this physical body, consciousness is somehow generated. And when the body falls apart, no consciousness. Exactly the view of modern materialists. That's point of view 1. Remember this. Matter born of consciousness. The second option is just the opposite. Consciousness born of matter, the first one. Second one is matter is born of consciousness. Matter is born of consciousness. Whose view is that? That's the view of all theistic religions. All religions across the world which are theistic. There is a conscious being called God who produced the universe. I'm painting in broad strokes. There is a conscious being called God. Because in every religion, if you ask those who believe in God, is your God conscious or unconscious? It's of course conscious. God is conscious, or consciousness itself, or unlimited awareness, whatever they call it. And that God created the universe. That's the second view. It's the religious point of view, theistic point of view. Creator. All ideas of God in all theistic religions is that God is a creator of the universe. So what it basically means in our terms, matter is produced from consciousness. Second option. Third option. Matter and consciousness are not produced from each other. They exist parallelly. They exist parallelly. Can you tell me which point of view this is? Ancient India, which point of view? Sankhya. Prakriti and Purusha. Purusha is pure awareness, Prakriti is matter. They exist together and they interact. Where? In you and me. We are material as well as conscious. Body and mind are material even mind is material according to Sankhya. And your consciousness is also there. They interact and they produce these living beings. Gita also says, by the interaction of Prakriti and Purusha, everything is functioning in this world. Third option. Matter and consciousness are parallel existences. Neither produces the other. None of these are Advaita, not what we are talking about. The fourth one, the path of insight which we are talking about now, it says consciousness alone is there. There is nothing called matter which is produced. Matter is an awareness, is an appearance in consciousness. You can say it is the dream of consciousness. Nivedita once said to Vivekananda, can I say that Kali is the dream of Shiva? Vivekananda laughed and said, well, have it your way then, yes. Matter is the dream of consciousness, if you want to put it poetically. How is that even possible? You do it every day. When you dream, everything, all the material things, people, objects, space, time, everything in your dream is dreamt up in your mind. Then what's it made of? Is it made of atoms and protons and neutrons? No, it's made of your mind. It's made of imagination, thought, samskaras. That's an example. Exactly like that, even matter, mind, all of this universe, they are only names and forms. Again, we're back to hard problem of matter. Structure, nama rupa, imposed upon consciousness. That's the fourth one. So, summarizing quickly, consciousness and matter, this vexed question. Consciousness born of matter, first one, materialist. Whether ancient materialist or even the most sophisticated modern materialist. Consciousness is born of matter. Second one, matter is born of consciousness. Whether you believe in Allah or Ram or Father in heaven, Jehovah, whatever it is. Our Lord, the Creator. Last week I was in a synagogue, in the oldest synagogue in North America, USA, Canada, all combined. The Portuguese, Spanish synagogue in Upper West Side, Manhattan. Orthodox Jewish synagogue. So I wanted to attend their services. Somebody said, oh, they'll let you in. How? Just like this. So I had a contact there, so he let me in. Our Lord is the Creator. Oh, how holy, holy, holy art thou, the Creator of the heavens and the earth. That is, the universe is created by consciousness. The third one, consciousness and matter are parallel. Sankhya. Not only Sankhya, today, in the heart of New York, David Chalmers, panpsychism, exactly that thing he said. Of course, not many people believe it, but he's saying it. Fourth one, Advaita Vedanta, consciousness only. You can say matter is the dream of consciousness. Anybody else? Yes, there.
You want to use the microphone?
I'll come to the microphone. I think they're recording it. Yeah. Tell us your name and ask a question. Working? Yeah, that's working.
My name is we started with faith, which is bhakti, and
Experience, yoga.
experience, which is yoga.
Mm-hmm. But by yoga, I mean the path of meditation, Patanjali yoga.
The consciousness, we were discussing about different ways of experiencing consciousness, and you gave an example of the vision, how the paper and the hand. We we see different things, but it's actually light which is being sensed by the visual.
By your eyes, yes.
Extending further, eyes is just a vision. Similarly, there are 5 different sensory organs perceiving different things. My question is these sensory organs hindering the progress towards experiencing the consciousness in an experiential way?
Okay. So are the senses a hindrance? The answer is yes and no. Are the senses a hindrance towards, let's put it this way, are the senses a hindrance towards enlightenment? What we're talking about, insight. Insight that I am that pure consciousness. Are the senses a hindrance? First answer is yes. Why are they a hindrance? Because just as when I show you this, you will say it's a paper. You will not say it's light. When I show you this, you will say it's a hand. You will not say it's light. What's happening is, your attention goes to the object, not what is being common to it is light being reflected, that we overlook. Similarly, because of these senses, our attention is always on the objects of the senses. What are the objects of the senses? Eyes see form, ears hear sound, smell, taste, touch. This is where our senses are going continuously. And our mind is going, our attention is in the objects of the senses. But that which is common to all these sensory experiences, the awareness, that's always in the background and we miss it continuously. Donkeys, smuggling donkeys. Attention is always on the goods, not the base, the foundation, the good on which the goods are kept. The donkey, no. So that's how the senses are a hindrance, because they are powerful. It's fascinating. Seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. Fascinating. That's why we are enthralled. The Upanishad says, Param chikhami vyatrinat swayambhu tasmat param pashyati nantaratman. Our senses flow outwards and the mind follows that, and we are continuously engaged with the external world. That's how we have been designed. Upanishad says it. That's why we see a world outside and not the consciousness within. This is exactly the meaning of the Upanishad. Then what should you do? Gaschid dhira avritta chakshu amritatvam icchan. Some very patient, dedicated, sincere seeker literally says closing the eyes or turning inwards. Pratyag atmanamaiksha. Realize the inner self, which is pure awareness. Why would he do that? What's the purpose of all of this? It says desiring immortality, wanting to go beyond death, beyond suffering. So it is a hindrance in that sense. That's the only reason why everybody is not enlightened, though it's there for everybody. That we are always that pure consciousness. But in the path of insight, we will see tomorrow and the day after, it can also be a big help. How? The same example. This, once you know that this is reflecting light to you, when I show you this, your attention will be paper, but it's reflecting light to me. Hand, but it's reflecting light to me. In the same way, whatever you see, hear, smell, taste, touch, we will see day after tomorrow. This is a special meditation technique. In every experience, how can you realize yourself as pure consciousness? Very easy. These very senses will become your supporter then. Whatever they present before you will be used to turn inwards, to realize that I am the awareness in which this presentation is appearing. Good question. Yes, please come. This will be the last question. Tell us your name and ask the question.
Mullah, sir.
Yeah.
So, since not everybody is going to be enlightened, what comes first? The seeking or are we sought?
Seeking or?
Do we seek first or are we sought out?
Okay. Since everybody is not going to be enlightened, everybody is going to be enlightened. In fact, I'm not just saying it to encourage you. The idea in Vedanta, in Sankhya, the whole purpose of this game of life is enlightenment. Goal of, Sri Ramakrishna said, the goal of human life is God realization. Enlightenment, nirvana, moksha, salvation, whatever you call it. Every religion also says it in different language, but we're saying what is the common denominator of all religions. The purpose is God realization, enlightenment, Brahma Jnana, whatever you call it. And will everybody attain it? According to Vedanta, everybody will. Why not? You are that. What can stop you? Nothing can stop you. But you can only take your time. Vivekananda half humorously said, take your time. You can have many, many lives, as many as you want to take your time. Are we seeking or are we sought? We are seeking, but in one sense we are sought also. Because it's our higher nature, or if you are believing in God, it's God who seeks you out. Don't think that we have come here on our own. You have been pulled here. If you don't like the God language, then it's our own higher nature that is continuously revealing itself to us. In fact, from the Vedantic perspective, the entirety of life is yoga. Aurobindo said it, life itself is yoga. If you do it consciously, you say, I am a spiritual seeker. If you don't do it consciously, what are you? You're just living. Then you are unconsciously practicing yoga. All the suffering, all the experiences, bitter and pleasant, all the tasting this, money, relationships, knowledge, doing good to others, politics, whatever you're trying to do to get fulfillment, this is yoga. This is such a broad idea about yoga. Aurobindo had it. Yeah. Good question. Should we bring it to an end? It's 8:20 nearly now.
Anybody have a quick question?
No. We'll reserve it for tomorrow. Alright, a question there.
So, Maharaj, one quick question, right? So we started with, like, for example, seeker of God. And then we said, okay, the belief will not work, so let's say you have to have a question in mind. Then we started receiving so many information, so many references, right? So do you think that, when we are actually overwhelmed with information, we also have a touch point, like what exactly we started for? What exactly we actually, look for?
Yeah.
So how do you suggest, we should have a touch points at every stage, that okay, this is what actually you wanted.
Yes.
So don't go and scatter,
That's why I've given you a very... So the question is that do we have a guiding point so that we don't get lost in all of these? Yes, the point is enlightenment. The point is, I've been told by realizing this real nature within me, I shall go beyond suffering. So let that be my guidepost. Am I transcending suffering? So ask yourself that and then go ahead in your spiritual life. That's why I give you a very structured presentation today. Do you see if you want to quickly recall what did we do today? Different approaches to religion. Faith approach, experience approach, and the insight approach. Bhakti, yoga, jnana. Then I showed you that what we are seeking is not something separated from you by space or time or object. It's right here, right now, and you yourself. And the spiritual journey is a journey from ignorance to knowledge, not from one place to another place, not from one time to another time. Then we came to consciousness itself. I showed how it is always present, what it is. And in relation to very modern questions, hard problem of consciousness, hard problem of matter. Then we talked about what we're going to do next, the structure, hearing, reflecting, meditating. And finally the matrix. Remember the matrix? Where it situates it in the entire spiritual life. Where is prayer, where is meditation, where is service, all of these things. How do you situate it? This is what we have done. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu.
Swami, thank you very much for a beautiful talk. Just a quick announcement before we leave the center here. We have a light supper, and